In this episode, we're going to focus on a very modern reality in software. Most applications are not built from scratch. They are assembled from many pieces, including libraries, frameworks, plugins, and services created by other people. Those pieces are called dependencies, and they can save enormous time and effort, but they also introduce risk. If a dependency has a weakness, your application can inherit that weakness even if your own code is clean. That is why managing dependencies and patching weak components quickly is one of the most practical ways to reduce application risk. The goal is not to fear dependencies, but to understand how they expand the attack surface and how smart maintenance keeps them from becoming the easiest path into your systems. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A dependency is any external component your software relies on to function. Some dependencies are direct, meaning your team intentionally chooses them and includes them. Others are indirect, meaning a direct dependency itself relies on additional components behind the scenes. This creates a dependency chain where a single application may effectively depend on hundreds or thousands of pieces. Beginners often assume risk comes mainly from the code they write, but in many cases, major vulnerabilities come from these upstream components. When a widely used library has a serious flaw, the impact can ripple across many organizations at once because the same component is embedded everywhere. This risk is intensified by how quickly vulnerabilities can move from discovery to exploitation. Once a vulnerability becomes known publicly, attackers often work fast to scan for systems that have not yet been updated. The window between disclosure and widespread exploitation can be very short. That means patching is not a slow, optional maintenance task. It is a time-sensitive security activity. When organizations delay updates, they may be leaving a known open door in their environment. Quick patching reduces the time attackers have to take advantage of known weaknesses. To manage dependencies responsibly, you need visibility into what you actually use. This sounds obvious, but it is harder than it seems because dependencies can be hidden inside build processes, container images, or application packages. Visibility means being able to list what libraries and components are included, what versions they are, and where they are used. Software Bill of Materials, SBOM, after the first mention, is a concept that helps by providing an inventory-style record of software components. The point is not the label, but the function. You cannot fix what you cannot find. When a vulnerability is announced, visibility is what lets you quickly answer whether you are affected. Once you can see dependencies, the next step is understanding their health and risk. Not all components are equally risky. Some are maintained actively with frequent updates. Others are abandoned, rarely updated, or maintained by a very small group. Some are used in security-sensitive functions such as authentication or cryptography. Others are used for convenience features like formatting or parsing. Risk depends on both the component itself and how it is used. Even a small library can be high risk if it processes untrusted input from users. Managing dependencies, therefore, includes evaluating both the trustworthiness of a component and the context in which it operates. Patching weak components quickly requires having a reliable update process. In many organizations, patching becomes slow because updates are treated as disruptive surprises rather than routine work. A disciplined approach makes updates normal. That means having development and testing practices that can absorb regular changes without breaking everything. It also means avoiding long periods where dependencies remain untouched, because when you finally update, the jump becomes large and risky. Smaller, frequent updates are often easier than rare, massive updates. This is similar to maintaining a car. Small, routine maintenance prevents sudden breakdowns and costly repairs. There is also a difference between patching your own code and patching dependencies. When you patch your own code, you control the timeline and the design. When patching a dependency, you often must wait for upstream maintainers to release a fix, then adopt it quickly. This introduces a coordination problem. Sometimes fixes are available immediately. Sometimes a workaround is needed until a proper patch arrives. Understanding this dependency on upstream timelines helps explain why organizations need contingency planning. If a critical dependency vulnerability appears and no patch exists yet, teams may need temporary mitigations such as disabling a feature or restricting access until updates are available. Version control practices matter here because they determine how updates are introduced. If dependency versions are loosely controlled, builds may include unexpected changes, which can create instability. If versions are tightly pinned and never updated, builds become stable but vulnerable over time. Good practices balance predictability with regular updates. Teams should know exactly what versions they are running and should update intentionally on a schedule or when critical issues arise. This reduces both surprise changes and long-term stagnation. Testing and validation are essential when patching quickly. Beginners sometimes think patching is simply installing updates and moving on. In reality, updates can change behavior, introduce incompatibilities, or break integrations. The safer approach is to patch quickly but not blindly. That means running tests that confirm the application still behaves correctly after updates. Automated testing helps here because it provides faster feedback than manual checks. When tests are reliable, teams can update more confidently and more often. This is one reason why good testing practices are closely tied to strong patching discipline. Another common challenge is prioritization. Organizations may have many components with many vulnerabilities, and not all deserve the same urgency. Prioritization means focusing first on weaknesses that are most likely to be exploited and most damaging if exploited. Factors include how exposed the component is, whether the vulnerable function is actually used, and whether there is known active exploitation. A vulnerability in a component that is accessible from the internet and processes user input is usually higher priority than one in an internal component with limited exposure. Prioritization is about reducing risk efficiently rather than trying to fix everything instantly. Dependencies also introduce supply chain risk, which refers to risk arising from software components and their distribution channels. A dependency might be vulnerable not only because of coding flaws, but also because its delivery mechanism could be compromised. If attackers can tamper with how dependencies are packaged or distributed, they can insert malicious code into trusted components. Supply chain incidents have shown that attackers sometimes target the software pipeline itself rather than the application directly. This is another reason to have strong controls around how dependencies are acquired, verified, and updated. Even as a beginner, you can see the logic. If you build with ingredients from outside, you need to trust and verify your suppliers. Operational habits also matter. Teams should monitor for newly disclosed vulnerabilities and have clear processes for responding. This includes identifying affected systems, planning updates, testing, deploying patches, and verifying that fixes are applied. Without clear ownership, updates can be delayed because everyone assumes someone else will handle them. Clear accountability and timelines reduce confusion. The most effective patching programs treat vulnerability response as a repeatable workflow, not an improvised scramble. To close, managing dependencies and patching weak components quickly is one of the most direct ways to reduce application risk because so much risk lives outside your own code. Dependencies expand functionality but also expand exposure, and vulnerabilities in popular components can spread widely. Visibility into what you use, evaluation of component risk, disciplined update practices, and reliable testing together create a practical defense. Quick patching reduces the time attackers can exploit known weaknesses, while smart prioritization ensures effort is focused where it matters most. When teams treat dependency management as a normal part of software health, applications become safer, more stable, and far less likely to fall behind in a world where new vulnerabilities appear constantly.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.